Thank you, Emma. Again, these component parts, these elements, these pieces that are underlying and backing all that we're working on, all that we're doing across this technology ecosystem and across these founders. So to go from autonomy, talking about how things work in the field, who's in charge, how they communicate, and the communications behind how people communicate is a fitting next topic for us. So I'd love to welcome Alex Marder, co-founder of Revelare Networks, to the stage to talk to us not only about how communications work, but how we should be communicating.
All right, thank you. Yeah, I'm Alex Marder. I'm the CEO and co-founder of Revelare Networks. I'm also a professor of computer science at Johns Hopkins, so I'm very excited to be here. I'm going to talk about how we as a company are trying to cross these quote-unquote valleys of death. So there's lots of valleys of death out there. Pretty much every topic has a valley of death or multiple valleys of death associated with it. This here is the valley of death that's in the charge of the Light Brigade. Obviously, the original comes from the Psalms. Our valley of death is trying to transition academic research to a commercial product. And I'm going to take you through our valleys of death, which are really these two different transitions. One where we have to go from academic research to a commercial entity, and then from the commercial entity to actually getting something procured by the military. So everything comes back to this problem for us, which is there's a real security problem here in the United States, but there's a real problem all around the world. So we've seen over the past several years, and it really came to the fore in the last year, that China is determined to listen to Americans' phone calls. They have targeted military, politicians, business leaders, journalists, law enforcement. Basically everyone who might be interesting to them has been subject to their attempts to listen in on our communications. What's become clear in the last 5 years as well, our government has revealed that actually they don't need to try to get into our cell networks to listen to phone calls. They can actually listen and eavesdrop on communications all around the world. And they can do this because they've placed back doors in the equipment made by Chinese cell equipment companies. These back doors are long-lived. They're likely put there in coordination with those companies, and it allows China to eavesdrop on communications all over the world. Our solution originally comes from an NSF Convergence Accelerator program. This was actually funded by what's now the Department of War, DOW. It was in collaboration with a bunch of other universities, and I wish that I had come up with this sort of problem, but actually this was gifted to me by our program manager. He basically got on the phone with me and said, "Alex, I just got out of a meeting with the Director of National Intelligence." He said, "We need to figure out what the hell is on those cell towers all around the world. Can you figure that out?" And I said, "Sure, as long as you give us money." So he did. He gave us money, and we went off to this problem. We solved it. There's no message in the cellular protocols that tell you what you're connecting to, but we have classifiers that can figure this out. We can do all of this on a phone. You can see the picture of me holding a phone in the Bahamas, connecting to both Huawei and Ericsson. And so, okay, we had this great, successful, academic project. We were then told by the DOW office, the Future G office funding our work, that we really need to get this into the warfighter's hands, and that this really can't happen as an academic project. We need to transition it to a commercial entity. So this is the first transition, the first valley of death we needed to cross, and this is all done in partnership with JHTV, who have been enormously helpful. We were faced with this key question initially, which is, are we going to go after venture capital? None of us are wealthy enough to just start companies, out of our own pocket. Are we going to go with venture capital, or are we going to try to bootstrap with DOW contracts? There's no theoretical reason we couldn't do both, except that we have very limited time. So either I'm going to spend all my time pitching as many VCs that will listen to me, or I'm going to spend my time trying to get contracts from DOW. And we basically made this pro-con list for each, and I found this on my desk a few weeks ago, so I thought it might be interesting to share. There's no guarantee I thought about this the right way. So if you're thinking, wow, he really doesn't know what he's talking about, that's probably true. So the first thing was, we thought that venture capital would let us get a minimum viable product ready quicker than bootstrapping with the DoD contract, and this is because we thought that VC would give us more flexibility with what we do. We didn't know which one would help us actually get to a procurement contract quicker. We didn't know who would have better connections and who would be more helpful there. Again, we thought VCs would be more flexible for us, so we could use the money where it was most needed, potentially outside of developing technologies. There's other things we need to do as a business, and so maybe hire a salesperson or something of that nature. So we thought maybe VCs have an edge there. We felt very strongly that working with a DOW office would help us get the requirements from potential customers and end users within the military. And this is because they're sort of naturally connected with those groups. All of their sort of money is designed to help those potential customers. They're not the same as the people who actually buy things, but they're the people they buy things for. We also obviously thought this was probably lowest on our priority list, that we could have the chance to increase our value before we take any money by bootstrapping with DOW. So that's right. Anyway, ultimately we decided we wanted to bootstrap with DOW contracts, and the reason is we didn't want to develop our technology sort of in a vacuum. We wanted to make sure that whatever we're developing with the limited amount of resources we have, that it's very well aligned with what the military customers actually need and what would provide the most value to the warfighter. All right, so we got our contract with DOW. We now have a couple contracts with DOW. And this allowed us to add a bunch of new capabilities and features to our technology. So I'm basically going to tell you why I think I don't know if this was the right decision, but why it was probably a good enough decision for us. I have no idea if the other way would have been better or not, so let's just pretend this is great. It turns out that the future G office who's funding our work, our incentives are aligned, which basically means we both succeed if our technology gets adopted and gets into the hands of the warfighter. They get more money from Congress, we get money in our corporate bank account. That means that they've helped us, they've been enormously helpful with getting trials going with different military groups around the world. I asked them, I'm not exactly allowed to say which of them are trialing it, but we've got 4 trials going on right now, and all of these can be turned into actual small procurements. These trials and getting connected with these military groups has led to a bunch of new features getting added. Some of these were very small features that we just didn't think of. Others were a little more time consuming. But basically, the product that we have, the phone apps, and we do this on hotspots, we can do this classification on a bunch of different devices. All of these are now tailored to what these groups need. And they're also helping us grow, probably not as quickly as venture capital would, but they basically came to me and told me, your company needs to grow. We're connecting you with all these military groups. You can't be a company of 5 people anymore. So they basically gave us $500,000 more to go hire a couple people. They've given us, they're basically helping us grow. We're hopefully going to be about 10 people in a couple months. So that's, right, so this takes us sort of to the second transition. This is still where we are. We have not crossed the second valley of death. I don't know if we'll ever get a procurement contract, but I have reasons for optimism, which is that we have promised you, this is Sisyphus pushing the rock up the mountain. we have promising trials with DOW groups and with the Department of Homeland Security. We met with PEO Soldier, which is the big procurement office for the Army. They think we're a fit for their requirements. They then all went on furlough with the shutdown. So anyway, we have obvious reasons for pessimism. One, we're a startup, but that's true for all of us. DOW has very deliberate and slow purchasing cycles. That's on purpose. You know, people's lives are potentially at stake. That's kind of annoying for small companies. We have to stay capitalized until we can actually get through that cycle. That's led us to think about diversifying. We have new contracts with DOW, hopefully 2 to 3 more contracts in the next year for new product lines, all in the cellular security space. And ultimately, we want to pursue a dual use for this. We think getting traction within defense can help with corporate communication security. So thank you very much for listening to me. It's great to be here.